Hi everyone. Today I'm presenting our work, Recurrent Brain Graph Mapper for predicting time-dependent brain graph evolution trajectory. This work has been done at Basira Lab by myself, Ahmet Nebli, and supervised by Dr. Islam Rekik. Given a baseline brain graph MICCAI rate time point t0, can we predict how the connection between brain regions will change over the time using a single observation? Since it's an essential problem, there are several studies on predicting evolution trajectory of the brain graph. Previous researchers have suggested using a deep learning-based framework to predict the evolution trajectory of the brain from a single acquisition point. However, they focused on predicting the brain when it's modeled as an image or 2D surface and overlooked the wide range of disconnective brain disorders that can be observed by modeling the brain as a graph. To overcome these limitations, EvoGraphNet was developed to predict the brain graph evolution by modeling the brain as a graph. However, it requires a significant amount of computational power and training time. EvoGraphNet is composed of stacked graph generative adversarial networks, namely GGAN. Each GGAN takes the predicted brain graph from the previous time point and generates brain graphs for the future time points. Although it has proven to be successful for predicted brain connectome evolution trajectory, it has some limitations. First, brain connectome evolution follows a temporal pattern. For that reason, RNN-based model is required to obtain better results. Second, each GGAN contains two neural networks, generative network and discriminator network. It increases the computational complexity and requires time for training. To overcome these limitations, we propose RBGM to predict the brain graph evolution using a single observation. We designed a structure called mapper. Each mapper contains recurrent graph convolution. It enables each mapper to catch temporal changes in the brain connectivity pattern between consecutive time points. It also improves the prediction power of each mapper. Transformation layer takes the learned node embeddings from the recurrent graph convolution and generates final brain adjacency matrix representation. We leverage teacher forcing method to quickly and efficiently train each mapper. So, in training, each mapper takes the grand-truth brain graph from the previous time point and predict the brain graphs for the next time point. If we do not use teacher forcing, each mapper can take the wrong predicted brain graph from previous mapper, errors will accumulate, and prediction accuracy will decrease. This is a general overview of proposed recurrent brain graph mapper. RBGM contains n mappers for n time points. Each mapper shares the hidden state values and contains the recurrent graph convolution and transformation layer. We have brain graphs. They are encoded into brain adjacency matrix representation. Each mapper takes the grand-truth brain graph from the previous time point and predicts the brain graphs for the next time point. We also have hidden state values, which is shared among mappers. At t0, it is initialized to 0. When mappers starting to learn, they update them so that each mapper can pass information to its successor. That enables RBGM to learn from the past information. Our loss function contains L1 loss between predicted brain graph from the previous time point and grand-truth brain graph from the next time point for regularization. We add topology loss between grand-truth and generated brain graph to keep topological consistency. MI represents the output of mapper I. SITR and capital SITR represents the node strength vector of node I for predicted and grand-truth brain graph respectively. Lambda 1 and lambda 2 are hyperparameters. Recurrent graph convolution takes input brain adjacency matrix and hidden state matrix from the previous time point to generate node embeddings for the next time point. Let's assume that we have node V1 and its three neighbors V2, V3, and V4. We also have corresponding hidden state values for each edge between node V1 and its neighbors. To generate the next layer embeddings, average message passing is computed. The message passing between node V1 and its neighbors is computing by using the corresponding hidden state values and edge weights. Then we compute the average of the messages. To inherit the previous layer embeddings, it is multiplied by dynamically generated edge-specific weights. The next layer embedding is computed by combining average message passing and inherited previous layer embedding. Transformation layer takes learn node embeddings from the recurrent graph convolution layer. First, it is duplicated with respect to horizontal axis. Then, we take the transpose of duplicated learn node embeddings. We compute the absolute difference between them. The resulting tensor is sum along the z-axis to generate predicted brain graph adjacency matrix representation. In our transformation layer, we used absolute difference to generate follow-up brain graphs. This is because our brain connectivity data was primarily generated by using absolute differences. But for example, if you use Pearson correlation to generate data, you can change this operation. We used 113 subjects from OSIS2 longitudinal dataset for our experiments. Each subject was scanned on 2 or more visits, separated by at least 1 year. We used patients' at least 3 MRI images. We used threefold cross-validation for evaluation. We leverage mean absolute error as an accuracy metric. We benchmark our work against the state-of-the-art EvoGraphNet, RBGM with L1 loss and topology loss, and its variation RBGM with L1 loss and chiral divergence loss. The chiral divergence minimizes the discrepancy between grand truth and predicted connectivity weight distribution at each time point ti. We report the mean absolute error between grand truth and predicted brain graphs for consecutive time points t1 and t2 for each comparison method. Our RBGM outperformed both methods for time point t1. It also closely matches the best results in time point t2. We also compare required time in training for each model. Obviously, RBGM significantly reduced the training time for both time points. We have developed edge-based recurrent graph neural network to predict the brain connectivity evolution trajectory from a single time point. We have used topology loss to preserve topological consistency between predicted and target brain graphs. We leverage teacher forcing method to speed up the training process. Using RBGM allows user to predict multiple time points at the same time in a more efficient way. Using topology loss to preserve topological consistency improves the prediction quality. In future work, we want to make more experiments with datasets for other types of brain diseases. Feel free to check our recent review paper on GNN in Network Neuroscience covering recent GNN architectures for brain connectivity integration, classification, super resolution, and more. You can also visit the GitHub repo of the paper. Please visit our website basiralab.com.